We tell ourselves we are too busy. We say we will start when things slow down, when the kids are older, when work is less demanding, when life gets easier. But life rarely gets easier. It simply gets different. And if we keep waiting for the perfect window to begin investing in ourselves, we will spend most of our lives waiting. This book is built on a single, simple premise. You do not need to overhaul your entire life. You do not need to wake up at 4 in the morning, or quit your job, or move somewhere new. You do not need a dramatic reset or a motivational retreat. You need 1 hour. 1 hour. Every single day. Given deliberately and consistently to something that matters deeply to you. That is it. That is the whole idea. But do not let the simplicity fool you, because that 1 hour, protected and practiced with discipline and intention, has the power to completely change who you are over time. It has done so for some of the most accomplished people in history. And it can do so for you. Let us find out how. Chapter 1. Why 1 hour changes everything. Think about the math for a moment. 1 hour a day is 7 hours a week. It is 30 hours a month. It is 365 hours over the course of a single year. That is more than 15 full days of focused, deliberate effort directed at something that matters to you. Imagine what you could build in 15 days of pure, uninterrupted focus. A skill, a business, a body of creative work, a deeper understanding of a subject you love, a healthier body, a more peaceful mind. The possibilities are staggering when you actually stop and look at the numbers. And yet, most of us cannot account for where our hours go. We finish a day feeling exhausted and somehow also unfulfilled. We worked hard. We were busy, but we cannot point to a single thing that moved our life meaningfully forward. This is not laziness. It is a design problem. Our days are designed by other people's priorities. Our phones are designed to capture our attention. Our schedules are filled by obligations that belong to everyone except ourselves. 1 hour a day is your reclamation. It is the act of taking back your own time and saying, "This hour belongs to me." Not to notifications, not to scrolling, not to passive distraction, not to the demands of others. This hour is mine, and I am going to use it to become the person I am trying to be. The reason 1 hour is so powerful is not just because of the cumulative output it produces. It is because of what the practice itself does to you. When you commit to showing up for yourself every single day, even for just 1 hour, you begin to develop something that most people desperately lack. You develop a relationship of trust with yourself. Most of us break our own promises more often than we break promises to others. We say we are going to start exercising, and we do not. We say we are going to write that book, and we do not. We say we are going to learn that language, and we do not. Every broken promise chips away at our self-trust. Over time, we stop believing in our own word, and when you do not trust yourself, everything in life becomes harder. But when you make one small, concrete commitment, and you keep it day after day, something remarkable happens. Your confidence does not come from a burst of inspiration. It comes from evidence, real lived evidence that you are someone who does what they say they will do. That kind of confidence is unshakable because it is earned. Chapter 2. The Myth of the Missing Time. Let us be honest with each other for a moment. When most people say they do not have time, what they usually mean is that they have not yet decided that the thing they want is important enough to prioritize. That sounds harsh, but it is actually one of the most freeing realizations you can have. Because if the problem is priority rather than time, then the solution is entirely within your control. The average person spends 2 to 4 hours a day on their phone. Not working, not creating, not connecting meaningfully with others. Just scrolling, just consuming, just passing time in a low-grade, habitual fog. If you reclaimed even a fraction of that time, 1 single hour out of those 2 or 4 or more, you would have everything you need. There is also the myth that meaningful work requires massive blocks of uninterrupted time. We tell ourselves that we cannot really get into something in just an hour, that we need a whole weekend or a vacation or an extended stretch of freedom to do the things that matter. But this is simply not true. Research on deliberate practice and deep work consistently shows that most people can only sustain truly focused, high-quality effort for 2 to 4 hours at a time. After that, cognitive performance drops significantly, meaning that 1 focused hour of real work is often more productive than 3 hours of scattered, distracted effort. Quality of attention matters more than quantity of time. Many of the most prolific creators in history worked in short, consistent bursts. Anthony Trollope, the Victorian novelist who wrote over 40 books, wrote for precisely 2.5 hours every morning before going to his job at the post office. He wrote a certain number of words each session, and when he was done, he put the pen down. Toni Morrison wrote before the sun came up, before her children woke, before the world could make demands on her. Maya Angelou rented a hotel room for mornings and went there alone to write for a few hours each day. These were not people with empty calendars and unlimited freedom. They were people with full lives, demanding jobs, families, and obligations. What they had was a commitment to protecting a specific window of time for the work that mattered most to them. That commitment made all the difference. You have time. The question is, what you are currently trading it for. Chapter 3. Choosing your one thing. This is where many people stumble. They feel the pull of too many interests, and they cannot decide where to focus their hour. They want to write a book, and learn to paint, and get fit, and learn guitar, and build a business, and meditate, and read more, and learn a new language. And so, faced with too many options, they choose none of them. They stay in a state of perpetual, almost starting, which is one of the most exhausting places to live. Here is the truth. You do not need to choose forever. You just need to choose for now. The practice of 1 hour a day is most powerful when it is directed at a single focus for a meaningful stretch of time. Not forever, but long enough to see real progress. 90 days is a good starting point. 3 months of 1 focused hour a day will show you more about what you are capable of than years of scattered effort ever could. So how do you choose your one thing? Start by asking yourself this question. If everything stayed exactly the same in your life 1 year from now, which absence would bother you the most? Which unlived version of yourself would you grieve? Is it the writer you have always wanted to be? The musician? The athlete? The entrepreneur? The learner? The person with a deep meditation practice and a calm, steady mind? There will be one answer that feels different from the others. Not louder, necessarily, but deeper, like something that has been quietly waiting for you. That is your starting place. And if you are still unsure, try this. For the next 2 weeks, spend your hour exploring. Read about 3 different things you are drawn to. Try a sketch, write a page, go for a run. See what calls you back. The right thing will not feel like a chore. It will feel like coming home. Once you have chosen your one thing, write it down. Be specific, not just exercise, but strength training 3 days a week and walking the other 4. Not just writing, but working on my novel for 1 hour each morning. Specificity is the bridge between intention and action. Chapter 4. Designing your hour. An unstructured hour can slip through your fingers just as easily as any other. You sit down with good intentions, and 20 minutes later, you have reorganized your desk, checked your email, made a snack, and lost the thread entirely. Protecting your hour is not enough. You also need to design it. Designing your hour means deciding, before you begin, exactly what you are going to do and how you are going to do it. It means creating a small ritual that signals to your brain that this time is different, that the ordinary rules of the day do not apply here. Start with your environment. Wherever you do your hour, make that space feel intentional. Clear the clutter. Put your phone in another room or turn it completely off. Have everything you need within reach before you sit down. These small acts of preparation send a message to your nervous system. They say, we are doing something real here. Then build a transition ritual. This is a short sequence of actions you perform at the beginning of every hour session. It can be as simple as making a specific drink, putting on a particular playlist, sitting in a particular chair, taking 3 deep breaths, and opening your notebook. The ritual itself does not matter much. What matters is that you do the same things in the same order every time. Over weeks, this sequence becomes a cue that immediately shifts your mental state into focus. Many high performers talk about the power of these transition rituals without always labeling them as such. Athletes have pre-game routines. Surgeons have scrubbing protocols. Musicians tune their instruments in a specific sequence. These are not superstitions. They are neurological triggers that prepare the mind and body for high-quality performance. Once inside your hour, it helps to work in structured intervals. The Pomodoro technique, developed by Francesco Cirillo, involves working in 25-minute blocks, followed by a short break. You can adapt this to your hour by working in 2 25-minute blocks with a 5-minute break in between, or by working straight through with a deliberate intention to notice when your focus starts to drift and gently return to it. The end of your hour matters just as much as the beginning. Spend the last 5 minutes in a brief review. What did you accomplish? What did you learn? What will you pick up tomorrow? This act of reflection compounds your progress because it keeps you conscious of where you are going and how far you have already come. Chapter 5. The discipline nobody talks about. Everyone wants to talk about motivation. Books about motivation sell millions of copies. Motivational videos rack up hundreds of millions of views. And motivation is real. That initial surge of energy and excitement when you start something new is real and wonderful. But it is also temporary. Almost every single time. The reason most people do not achieve what they set out to achieve is not because they lacked motivation. It is because they did not know what to do when the motivation ran out. And it always runs out. This is not a personal failure. It is just biology. The brain gets used to novelty quickly. The excitement fades. The friction of real effort becomes visible. And, in that gap between the fading of excitement and the arrival of real results, most people quit. What lives in that gap is discipline. Not the harsh, punishing kind of discipline that we sometimes imagine. Not willpower deployed through gritted teeth and white knuckles, but the quieter, gentler discipline of showing up simply because you said you would. Real discipline is not about forcing yourself to do things. It is about building a system that makes doing the right thing easier than not doing it. It is about reducing the friction between where you are and where you want to go until the habit of your hour becomes as automatic and unremarkable as brushing your teeth. Here is something important to understand. On the days when you do not feel like it, those are not the days to push yourself harder. Those are the days to do less, but still do something. If you planned an hour of writing and you wake up tired and resistant, do not skip it. But do not force yourself to produce brilliance either. Just open the document. Just write one paragraph. Just show up for 20 minutes. And give yourself permission to do it imperfectly. Because here is what most people do not realize. The session where you show up even though you do not want to. The day you sit down and write something mediocre, or practice something badly, or exercise when every cell in your body wants to stay in bed. That session is worth more than the brilliant session you had on a good day. That session is where discipline is actually built. That is the day you prove to yourself that your commitment is real. The discipline nobody talks about is the discipline of compassion. The discipline of not catastrophizing when you miss a day. The discipline of getting back up the next morning and returning to your hour without shame or punishment. Because the people who build lasting practices are not the ones who never miss a day. They are the ones who never miss 2 days in a row. Chapter 6. What progress actually looks like. We live in a culture obsessed with rapid transformation. Before and after photos. 30-day challenges. Overnight success stories. And while dramatic, rapid change does sometimes happen, it is the exception rather than the rule. For most meaningful things, progress is slow, invisible for long stretches, and then suddenly visible all at once. This pattern has a name. It is called the plateau effect, and it is one of the most misunderstood aspects of skill development and personal growth. You practice something for weeks, and nothing seems to be happening. You put in the hours, and you still cannot play the card, write the sentence, run the mile, hold the pose. It feels like you are banging against a wall. And then one day, without any apparent reason, the wall is not there anymore. You do the thing, and it works. The skill clicks. The habit settles. Something that was hard becomes easy, and something new becomes the next challenge. The problem is that most people quit during the plateau. They interpret the lack of visible progress as evidence that the thing is not working, that they are not good enough, that they chose the wrong thing. They stop just before the breakthrough. One of the most important things you can do to sustain your 1 hour a day practice over time is to change how you measure progress. Stop measuring only outcomes and start measuring effort. Stop asking, "Am I better?" and start asking, "Did I show up?" Because showing up is something you can control. Getting better happens as a natural consequence of showing up consistently. But it happens on its own timeline, not yours. Keep a simple daily log. Not a journal of feelings, but a record of facts. Today I sat down for 1 hour. I worked on my chapter. I wrote 400 words. Done. Over time, this log becomes one of the most powerful motivational tools you have. On a hard day, you can look back and see that you have been showing up for 60 days straight. That is not nothing. That is a person who keeps their promises. Celebrate small wins actively, not in a performative way, but in a genuine, private acknowledgement. When you finish your session, take a moment to recognize that you did it. You gave yourself that hour. That matters. That is worth appreciating. And watch for the signs of invisible progress. The fact that you sat down today without the usual resistance, the fact that you got into flow faster than you did last month, the fact that you are thinking about your project in the shower and the car and before you fall asleep. These are all signs that something is happening below the surface, that your brain is reorganizing itself around this new identity you are building. Progress is there. You just have to know where to look. Chapter 7. Identity and the Hour. The most powerful shift that happens when you practice 1 hour a day with consistency is not the skill you develop or the work you produce. It is the story you begin to tell yourself about who you are. Identity is the operating system of your behavior. If you believe you are a disorganized person, you will be disorganized. If you believe you are not a morning person, you will not be a morning person. If you believe you are the kind of person who starts things and never finishes them, that belief will become a self-fulfilling prophecy over and over again. But identity is not fixed. It is built through evidence. Every action you take is a vote for a particular version of yourself. When you sit down for your hour today, you are casting a vote that says, I am someone who is serious about this. I am someone who follows through. I am a writer, or a runner, or a learner, or a builder. And votes compound over time. This is why the 1-hour practice is so much more than productivity. It is identity construction. It is the slow, deliberate building of a self that you genuinely believe in. And when your identity and your actions are aligned, willpower becomes almost unnecessary. You do not have to force yourself to do things that are consistent with who you are. You just do them. James Clear, in his work on habits, describes this beautifully. He says, the most effective form of motivation is identity-based motivation. Not wanting to lose 20 pounds, but becoming the kind of person who takes care of their body. Not wanting to finish a book, but becoming a writer. The outcome becomes a byproduct of the identity, not the other way around. So, as you build your 1-hour practice, pay attention to the language you use about yourself. Start saying, even quietly, even just in your own mind, I am someone who writes every day. I am someone who trains their body consistently. I am someone who creates, who learns, who grows. Say it even before you fully believe it. Because the actions will follow the identity, and the belief will follow the actions. And one day, you will realize that it is no longer something you are trying to be. It is simply who you are. Chapter 8. The Compounding Life. Albert Einstein is said to have called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it or not, the idea is profound. The principle that small, consistent additions to a base can produce enormous results over time is one of the most powerful forces in nature. We apply this idea to money easily enough. We understand that investing a small amount consistently over many years produces wealth far beyond what the individual contributions alone would suggest. But we rarely think about our lives this way. We rarely think about skills, knowledge, relationships, and habits as compounding assets. When you practice your craft for 1 hour a day, the returns are not linear. They are exponential. In the first month, you might see modest improvement, but the knowledge and skill you build in month 1 is the foundation for what you build in month 2, and the foundation you build in months 1 and 2 accelerates what becomes possible in months 3, 4, and 5. The curve of growth bends upward, slowly at first, and then faster than you can imagine. This is why people who have been writing for 10 years produce work that seems impossibly far beyond what they wrote in year 1. Not because they are more talented, but because they have 10 years of compounded skill, compounded intuition, compounded craft. The gap between a beginner and an expert is not one giant leap. It is thousands and thousands of small, consistent hours that have stacked on top of each other. The compounding life is available to everyone. But it requires patience that our modern world actively discourages. We live in an age of instant gratification, where results are expected immediately, and anything that takes years feels like a waste of time. The discipline of your 1 hour a day is partly the discipline of playing the long game in a short game world. Think about where you want to be 5 years from now, not in terms of outcomes, but in terms of who you want to be. What skills do you want to have? What have you spent 5 years building now? Work backward. What would you need to do today and tomorrow and every day between now and then? What is the 1 hour a day version of the person you want to become in 5 years? The person you want to be in 5 years is built 1 hour at a time. Starting today. Chapter 9. Protecting your hour from the world. The world will not automatically make room for your hour. In fact, the world will do the opposite. It will fill every available space with urgency and noise, and demands that feel important, but mostly are not. Protecting your 1 hour requires both internal resolve and practical strategy. The first threat is other people. The people in your life, even the ones who love you most, will not always understand or respect your hour. They will call during it. They will need things during it. They will wonder why you are being unavailable. You will need to communicate clearly and consistently that this time is important to you, and you will need to do so without apology. This does not mean being cold or selfish. It means treating your development with the same seriousness that you treat other important commitments. You would not cancel a doctor's appointment or a work meeting without good reason. Give your hour the same respect. Schedule it. Block it on your calendar. Tell the people in your household that this is your time. Most of the time, when we are clear and consistent about our boundaries, people adapt. It might take a few uncomfortable conversations, but the people who genuinely care about you will come to respect the practice, especially when they begin to see the changes it produces in you. The second threat is urgency. The email that cannot wait. The task that just came up. The crisis that, upon closer inspection, is not actually a crisis. Urgency is one of the most effective thieves of our deepest priorities. Stephen Covey described this in terms of a matrix, where we categorize tasks by importance and urgency. The things that are urgent but not important, things like most emails, most social media notifications, most interruptions, tend to consume the time that should belong to things that are important but not urgent. Your hour falls in the second category. It is important. It is probably not urgent. And that is exactly why it keeps getting pushed aside. The solution is to get your hour done as early in the day as possible. Not because you are necessarily a morning person, but because early in the day, the urgent has not yet arrived. The demands have not yet piled up. The interruptions have not yet begun. If you can anchor your hour at the start of your day, you secure it before the world has a chance to steal it. If mornings are truly not possible for you, find the next best window. Maybe it is a lunch break. Maybe it is the evening after the children are in bed. The specific time matters less than the consistency. What matters is that you protect the same window every day until it becomes as fixed and expected as any other appointment in your life. Chapter 10. When life gets in the way. There will be seasons when your hour gets difficult to maintain. When illness strikes, or grief arrives, or life becomes suddenly and unexpectedly overwhelming. During these times, the 1 hour a day practice is not meant to be a source of additional pressure. It is meant to be an anchor. An anchor is not something you cling to out of rigidity. It is something you return to when the storm passes. During the hardest times, even a few minutes of your chosen practice, even the simple act of sitting in your designated space and doing something small, can be a profound act of self-care. It says to yourself, even in this, I have not completely abandoned what matters to me. There will also be times when you miss days, when the hour simply does not happen. A sick child, an unexpected emergency, an emotional day that leaves nothing left over. Missing a day is not failure. What you do after you miss a day is what matters. The most important rule is this: never miss 2 days in a row. 1 missed day is a human moment. 2 missed days is the beginning of a pattern. The moment you skip a second consecutive day, the habit begins to loosen. The identity begins to soften. It becomes easier to skip the 3rd day and the 4th. Before you know it, weeks have passed and the practice is gone. So when you miss a day, and you will miss a day, simply resolve to show up tomorrow. Not with guilt, not with punishment, not with an elaborate plan to catch up. Just show up tomorrow. That is enough. That is all that is needed. The practice is patient. It will be there waiting for you. And here is something comforting to remember in those hard seasons. Even maintaining a reduced version of your practice during difficult times is a form of resilience. Doing 10 minutes instead of 60 is not failure. It is adaptation. It is wisdom. It is the long game thinking of someone who understands that sustainable practice over years matters more than perfect practice over weeks. Chapter 11. The Ripple Effect. Something unexpected happens when you commit to your 1 hour a day and truly follow through. The practice does not stay contained in its designated window. It begins to ripple outward into the rest of your life in ways you did not anticipate. When you start your day with an hour of purposeful effort, you carry something with you into the rest of the day. A quality of intention. A sense of having already honored yourself and your deepest goals before the world asked anything of you. That feeling changes how you move through the rest of your hours. You are less reactive, more centered, more capable of distinguishing what matters from what merely feels urgent. People who build strong daily practices consistently report improvements in areas they were not specifically targeting. They sleep better. Their relationships improve. They make better food choices. They are less anxious and more confident. They handle setbacks with more grace. Not because they worked on those things directly, but because the practice of disciplined self-investment creates a kind of internal alignment that spills over everywhere. There is also the effect on the people around you. Children who see a parent sit down every day to work on something meaningful, to write, to paint, to study, to practice, absorb a lesson that no lecture could teach. They see what commitment looks like. They see that growth is a lifelong practice, not something that stops in school. Your hour, witnessed by a child, is one of the most powerful lessons you can offer. Partners, friends, and colleagues also notice. Not always immediately, and not always consciously, but the person who shows up with quiet confidence, who speaks with enthusiasm about what they are building, who carries the energy of someone living in alignment with their values, that person is magnetic. Your practice changes how people experience you, because it changes who you are. Chapter 12. Seasons of Focus. One final and important idea to carry with you. Life is not static, and neither should be your practice. There will be seasons when your 1 hour is devoted entirely to a single pursuit. A book you are writing, a physical goal you are working toward, a skill you are developing from scratch. These seasons of singular focus are enormously productive and deeply satisfying. They are where most of your compounding growth will happen. But there will also be seasons of maintenance, times when the big project is done and you are not yet sure what comes next. Times when you simply tend to the practices that sustain you. Reading, moving, thinking, resting without a specific goal in mind. These seasons are not wasted. They are fallow seasons, like a field resting between harvests. Do not rush through them or feel guilty about them. They are part of the rhythm of a full creative and personal life. And there will be seasons of exploration. Times when you give your hour to learning something new, following a curiosity without knowing where it leads. These seasons plant seeds that may not flower for years, but they keep you alive and engaged and growing in ways that a purely goal-oriented life cannot. The 1 hour a day practice is not a rigid formula. It is a flexible commitment. What it asks of you is not perfection, but presence. Not maximum output, but honest effort. Not a single unchanging direction, but a continuous, faithful turning toward the life you want to live. Epilogue. The hour that will change everything. We have come to the end of this book, but we have also come to the beginning of something much more important. Because everything we have explored here, every idea, every strategy, every story, means nothing unless you choose to act on it. You now understand that time is not the real obstacle. You understand that 1 hour, chosen carefully and protected fiercely, is enough to change the direction of a life. You understand that discipline is not about willpower, but about identity, about systems, and about the compassionate practice of returning again and again to what matters most. You understand that progress is invisible before it is visible, and that the plateaus are not signs of failure, but stages of transformation. You understand that your practice will ripple outward, changing not only your own life, but the lives of everyone who watches you live it. And you understand that the most important version of yourself, the one that has been quietly waiting, is not somewhere in the distant future. It is 1 hour away, every single day. So here is your invitation. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, not when the time is right. Today or tonight, or in whatever small window you can carve out in the next 24 hours, give yourself 1 hour. Sit down with the thing that matters most to you. Open the notebook. Lace the shoes. Pick up the instrument. Start the document. Open the textbook. Close your eyes. And breathe. Give yourself 1 hour and see what happens. Then, do it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. 1 hour a day. It is the smallest promise you can make to yourself.